Hi, my name is Steve Bjork, and in this video I'm going to introduce you to LambdaSharp, a tool for creating serverless .NET applications on AWS. Let's get started. So the things I'd like to cover is a little bit of a background story for why we created LambdaSharp, the commands you need to initialize your environment and deploy your first LambdaSharp module, and then a look behind the scenes in the AWS console and see how this module looks like in CloudFormation where it was deployed. So first, why LambdaSharp? The motivation behind creating LambdaSharp was very simple. We wanted a tool that made building applications, serverless applications with .NET Core as seamless as possible. And we wanted a really great developer experience, one that made it easier to experiment and to iterate quickly and have a very frictionless process to deploy your serverless code into your AWS account. Furthermore, we also wanted it to tie in with best DevOps practices by providing a clean process by which experimentation was certainly encouraged, but then also reliability and stability of deployment was also guaranteed with how modules, once they have been published, can actually be redeployed. So there's quite a few moving parts. As a matter of fact, it's not just a tool, a command line application that you use for building and deploying. There's also an SDK that is used as the base class for your LambdaSharp functions. This ensures a consistent configuration of all your functions and also how they behave under certain failure modes, which is absolutely essential for a reliable environment. There's also a programming model for LambdaSharp itself, for how you describe your modules. Now, this one is strongly based on the existing CloudFormation YAML, so all the knowledge you have around CloudFormation can directly be ported over, but it provides a slightly different structure. It's a little bit more modern, a little bit more flexible. And lastly, there's a set of core services, which are LambdaSharp modules that provide additional functionality, which is very useful in production environments. So now let's take a look for how to get started. So as I said, it's a .NET application. So I have .NET version 3.0 installed. By the time you watch this video, it might be later. And the .NET command line allows you to install a tool from NuGet globally so that it becomes available. So that's what I'm doing here. .NET tool install global lambdasharp.tool. And this will download it and install it. Okay, so now it's here. And so the next thing we want to do is initialize an environment at what we call a deployment tier to get started. There is a quick start option, and I recommend you do that later on when we already know what to expect. But for this video, I wanted to show you the complete installation procedure. The first thing you will be asked is about if you want to use core services or not. I'll talk about core services in a moment. For your own development and for experimenting and so on, you certainly don't need them. And there's a cost component associated with them. That's why we ask if you'd like to have them or not. Plus, you can enable them at a later date. The next thing is you need a bucket in which artifacts can be published into that belong to your modules. Again, if you have one already, you can use it. Maybe you want one with specific your bucket name. That's useful when you want to make the bucket public and share it with others, public or shared across accounts. If you don't have one and we just want to get started, just leave it blank and a new one will be created. So this now initializes the basic environment, which just really has a bucket and no additional services, so no additional cost. So I touch upon this a little bit. What we're deploying right now is what we call a deployment tier, or simply tier for short. And it can have multiple resources or just a few. In this case, we have a basic one. Now, the reason why we have deployment tiers so that in a single account, in a single region, you can have multiple tiers which can be used for your development, for your staging, testing, and then for your production. And they don't have to have all core service enabled or not. It really depends on what you need. So for your development, you may not have core services. Next, you can publish across these deployment tiers from a single source of truth, which means you're not rebuilding and then maybe what's going to production is not what you actually tested. No, it is a bit perfect copy. And that is one of the essential capabilities that we believe is essential for having a reliable deployment process. Okay. So our initial deployment here was created. And so now we are ready to actually deploy something into it. And for that, I'm going to use the /deploy command. And we have already a published application called, which is a simple static website. So I'm going to use this one. And what you see here is a few pieces. The first part is the name of the module that we're publishing, the version. 1.0-dev is the default when none is provided. And then lastly, the bucket from which it's coming from. This is the official LambdaSharp bucket. So we published it here already, which means that the CloudFormation and any artifacts that are related to it are there, and they're just going to have to be copied over and initialized. So that's what's going to happen next. If I'm not making a typo, static. Oh, add LambdaSharp. Oh, there you go. Of course, that had to happen. Okay, so hopefully this time we find that. Yep, there it goes. It's importing its dependencies. And so this module has CloudFormation parameters, such as the title for the website and a greeting. So let's just put in something very simple, my website, and then my greeting. All right. Great. And off we are to the races. So while this is running, let's talk about the core services, since that is a part of LambdaSharp that we're not going to go super deep into this. So what I just deployed earlier with core service disabled is a very, very simple environment. It's effectively just a deployment bucket that holds all the artifacts of the modules you built and that you publish. So you always have a copy of something that you published so that in case the original goes away, you can still republish. So this is part of the federated setup that LambdaSharp uses for making it easy for sharing modules with others across accounts and so on. But with core services, what you get is a more sophisticated kind of base infrastructure that your modules tie into automatically. You don't have to do anything. You effectively get this for free in terms of complexity when you build your modules. The first thing is a dead letter queue. This one is automatically hooked up to all your functions. So if something goes wrong, it's not able to process it, the message will go into the dead letter queue, if that's the behavior of your function. Some don't do that. For example, if you have a SQS function. The registrar is invoked by the module when it initializes, as well as every function afterwards that is part of the module. This ensures that as information is collected in your module by the log analyzer, it knows which function belongs to which module. And that's the next part here. All your functions have CloudWatch log streams. They are automatically subscribed to this log stream is automatically subscribed to every log of your function in your module so that the log analyzer can run. The log analyzer does a few things. It parses out errors that occur in your log stream and sends them on the errors topic, so you get notified when something happens. But it also detects other conditions that you might not be able to log, such as out of memory, timeout, or just like initialization not even possible, like the constructor was not found, or that there's a bad assembly. These kinds of errors you cannot log in code because your code actually never runs or doesn't get a chance to run after your application has run out of memory. So the log analyzer takes care of finding anything that went wrong inside your application or in its environment. The other thing it does, it also checks the usage of your function. So if like I said, if it exceeded it, that's an error. But sometimes you may only be up to 90% of your memory. That's not an error, but it sure should be a warning. And that's exactly what the log analyzer does. You will get an issued warning if you reach within 10% of your memory limit or your time limit automatically. Usage is also reported, so you can aggregate this somewhere else and just get a sense for if maybe you're getting too close to the limits. So that's what core service provides. Really, really useful in a production environment where you need this observability of your code, and you get it for free. You don't have to do anything. These services automatically hook up to all your functions and your modules, and you can enable and disable them at will. So if for example, you start off with the simple account and you now want the observability, maybe you want to test it out, you can actually enable core services. I'm not going to cover that in this video because that will take too long, but just so you know. Okay, now let's go back here. We see that everything has been deployed. It took about 2 minutes. There were actually 2 stacks that got created. One is this LambdaSharp S3 IO stack, which is a set of custom custom resources for CloudFormation that allow us to copy our website files into an S3 bucket, as well as creating a JSON file in the S3 bucket that has the title and the greeting. The second stack that got deployed is the actual application. So the reason the tool knew to deploy the first stack is because LambdaSharp has an understanding of dependencies, and it knew that this stack was dependent on that stack, and it deployed it automatically. Now this is a shared dependency, so you only have to deploy it once. You can now deploy other modules that reuse it, and it happened entirely transparently. Great. So now, enough talking. Let's check out what this looks like. So I copied the URL. Let me jump out of this. Open this URL, and here we have my website and my greeting, as you can see in this website. Now, one of the things that makes it so awesome to use CloudFormation is that you can parameterize things. So let's now jump to the AWS console and just take a look what this actually looks like in deployment. So here we have the LambdaSharp core module. That's what we deployed. That has the deployment bucket. So all the artifacts of all your modules, either that you have published or that you published implicitly by having dependencies, are stored here. This is the module I just mentioned a second ago, which contains the custom resources that allows us to do some common S3 operations more easily. And then this is the module that is the website itself. So because it is CloudFormation, and because we parameterized it with CloudFormation parameters, we can actually go in here and now modify it without having to redeploy or update anything from the command line. This is the application as it exists in AWS. And here I can say, I want to say totally awesome website, even though it's a super simple vanilla website. Okay, welcome to my website. So all I'm doing here is I'm changing the value of the website settings. These were the same ones that we were created initially when we deployed it, website settings. Exactly the same thing. It's just these happen to be CloudFormation parameters, and LambdaSharp knew it needed them, so it prompted for them on the command line. Now that we're in the cloud, we can update these directly here inside CloudFormation. There's some other options here which are standard option for LambdaSharp modules. A section called Do Not Modify. So guess what? Don't modify it unless you know exactly what you're doing. And that's it. So we have the new parameters. Our stack got automatically tagged by who deployed it. What is the root stack and so on, some other metadata. And now just go next. And all we have to do is scroll down here and ask it to update the stack. And so this will take a few seconds. And so what's happening behind the scenes is, because the CloudFormation parameter has changed, it re-triggers our custom resource that is responsible for writing the JSON file to the S3 bucket that holds that information. And so that's being updated now automatically for us. And so the next time we refresh the site, it would read the new config.json, which has the new information. So hopefully it is done. There we go. So if I go now here, I hit F5, we have our new website message with our new greeting. Everything is updated, and it happened entirely inside CloudFormation. We didn't have to do anything, and that's kind of where the power of LambdaSharp really comes from. So if you want to learn more about LambdaSharp and how to build really cool serverless.NET applications using CloudFormation for reliable deployment process, LambdaSharp.net is where to go for the documentation, installation instructions, finding additional videos. @LambdaSharp on Twitter is the best way to reach out and connect with the community. And lastly, our GitHub account, where you can, of course, find the source code for the tool, as well as many other sample applications. So I hope you found this video useful. Please leave comments, and happy hacking.